Welcome back. Sorry it's taking me so long to get this out. I wanted to make sure I had a pretty well assessment of what I've gotten myself into. We kind of seen leaning into the video some of the twin engine turboprop that it took us to get here. So the travel here from Anchorage took about 6-7 hours. I had a 3.5 hour twin engine plane ride, followed by a 3.5 to 4 hour boat ride, which we're all kind of isolated from the rest of the crew just to protect quarantine and make sure we weren't bringing in COVID to the island, which would be a bad situation here being everybody's so close quarter. But what have I learned? Well, as you see behind me here, here's my clinic. The clinic per se is almost a hybrid ER meets ICU. Short of a ventilator, which we're currently working on, you have everything to resuscitate, intubate, and maintain that ventilation right now as long as your hands can bag. But hopefully that's about to change pretty soon. But what have I learned? It's mentally tough. It's a lot mentally tougher than I thought it would be. Not necessarily the medicine portion of it. I feel fairly confident in that. It's the just being away from your family that's the hard part. I mean, it's financially, is it worth it? Yeah, financially it's worth it. So that's the reason we're here, which I've explained in other videos. You kind of have to assess why do you want to do this. It is an adventure, and I'm an adventure type of person. The views are spectacular from the island. Not necessarily where I work in the plant, it's just industrial, concrete and buildings. But as soon as you walk outside my apartment / dorm room, I can walk up a mountain, hike a mountain. It's right now the highest I've made it up is 920 feet, and it is a steep climb. There is a second peak behind the one I have summited that I plan on doing before. That's my goal, to summit it before I leave. You can leave with the other end of the compound and walk around the bay, because the island, we're kind of on an inlet bay where the ships come to unload. And you can walk around that. Farthest I've been so far is a little over a mile. I'd like to walk around to the other side, which I suspect is about 3 miles probably each way. But I have to squeeze this in between clinic hours, and the tide map here is kind of different. It's not a early tide, low tide. It kind of goes up and down all day long, so you got to make sure you can get back over some of the inlets you cross to get back. But I'll include pictures of that later, maybe in a whole separate video of things to do outside of work. But the staff has been great. The management here at the plant has been wonderful. The patients have been great. I haven't had any problems. There is very culturally diverse. There is roughly 30 different languages spoken here. I have a lot, primarily of Filipino, Ukrainian, and Spanish speaking populations. That kind of covers all different areas. We have some Somalians, or I guess Somalians, they're from Somalia, and Sudanese. And they all speak a little bit of English, but not much. So Google Translator will be your friend, and we also have translators on site that can help. But I have no complaints, other than I miss home. That's to be expected with any travel assignment, much less one that was 8 weeks plus 2, plus a couple more days. So my 8 weeks is more like 10 plus. I'm not home yet, so I don't know how long it'll take. I do hope I'll probably can leave on time, but I know I'm ready to get home to my family. But hey, I love what I do here. I love taking care of the people, the medicine. One thing you have to kind of be prepared for is you're it. It's a one-man show in here. You do have help and some EMTs through the plant, your security, your safety advisor. And I think they're planning on maybe even teaching an EMT class here So they'll be able to kind of expand that role, which would be great. But one thing you have to get used to also is not only are you the provider, you're a triage nurse, you're a provider, you're also your pharmacist, which one day I'll go through and I'll show you all the medicines and our setup. But not only do you diagnose and treat, you got to come back here and count pills out of bulk, bag them, print off your labels and instructions, make sure they understand them, and then arrange the follow-up. So far I've only had 2 patients, knock on wood, and that happened to be my second day that I had to medevac out of here. One was a traumatic crush injury, and one of them was a unusual presentation for belly pain, which ended up being more radicular from a disc. Either way, you have to play devil's advocate. I had them here for over 12 hours because the weather was so bad I couldn't get them out by boat or helicopter. So that's another thing you have to kind of be prepared for, is not only you may diagnose something, but you may be doing all the supportive care until you get clear weather to get them out. The islands and the Aleutian chain kind of generate their own weather pattern, so I can almost guarantee you if it's after about 9 o'clock at night, maybe 10 o'clock at night till about 10 o'clock in the morning, you're pretty much going to be weathered in. You're not going anywhere. So it's just kind of become a meteorologist too. I'm constantly watching the waves and the wind and the barometric pressure, so I know kind of if something happens, I'll have to be prepared ahead of time. Is this even a flight option? We do have a helicopter on site for transfers over to the neighboring island, which they'll pick up with a medical plane, which will fly them the rest of the way to Anchorage for care. We do have that relationship with the trauma center in Anchorage, so they are really good to work with, and we have a service through the clinic that I have contact with on-call physicians if I need advice or just consult, bounce something off of them, get recommendations, which I did, especially with the back pain, belly pain patients. I did check in with them a couple of times just to keep them up to date. And the Accutane Island and the Trident Seafood, who I'm employed by, they take care of the employees really well. Both patients that I had to send out, they have people on the ground there that immediately take over their care and make sure they get to where they need to be. All right, well, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. Check that little bell so you know when I post. Communication here, I have no cell service, and Wi-Fi is incredibly expensive. So I will cover all that in another video. So it may take me 3 or 4 weeks to get things uploaded, but I will keep the content going all the way till I get home, and then I'll recap everything and tell you exactly what I think and would I recommend this to you. Well, until then, stay safe and enjoy your fish.